Start recording. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Conversations with Carla. I am Carla Shawn, a intuitive healer and business coach and life coach. And one of my passions is interviewing amazing change makers. And today we have the Nate Miller on. Hello, Nate.
Hey, Carla. I'm excited and happy to be here.
Excellent. So I like to call him the Nate Miller because that's his tagline on, is it on Twitter or Facebook? Like, where do you have that?
It's my website. That's kind of where I carried it over from. And the only reason that it's the Nate Miller is because Nate Miller was taken and I made an offer to buy it and the people didn't even want to hear my offer. So I had to come up with something. So the Nate Miller was available and I kind of asked some professionals if that would be the best choice, and that's what they said. So it sounds kind of uppity, I guess, but it is what it is.
Oh, I love it. I think it's great. So Nate is an amazing guy. He's a fun personality, and I can't wait for you to get to know him. So Nate, tell us a little bit about you. Who are you, and what do you do?
All right, let me give you a little bit about my background first. I'm a physical therapist by background, and I became a hospital administrator at a very young age, kind of advanced into leadership, moved up into the hospital world and ran 3 hospitals, award-winning hospitals, and I decided I want to take what was very successful within our organization and take it to other places. So I started a healthcare consulting firm and traveled the country doing operational turnarounds with organizations, and had the opportunity to co-author a book in 2012 called The Secret to Winning Big with Brian Tracy. Became a best-selling author, and just really moved into the leadership. Like when I would go to places, I learned that when I would leave, they would call me and ask me a lot about leadership questions. So it was just kind of a natural progression into leadership. And my goal is to help change the world by teaching individuals how to be inspirational leaders, because that is what's going to change the world. That's what's going to change or make the world a better place, is people that are inspired and can teach people how to be inspired.
Absolutely. And I know we had a conversation the other day, and you were saying that, yes, you help people be inspirational leaders, but also people who don't necessarily have a leader position for their work. Do you want to speak more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I'll just start by sharing a story. Okay. And this will kind of lead into what we're going to talk about. But several years ago, I believe it was 2003, I had the opportunity to go on a medical and construction mission trip to Honduras. There was a church organization that was going, and they were getting physicians and nurses and, all these medical personnel. A couple of dentists went with us, and also a construction group, because we were going to a Mennonite church in Honduras that had a school on their grounds. And so there was a contingent that was going to be doing medical mission, and then the other half was going to be constructing the second floor on part of their school because they were expanding their school. And so I was really excited, wanted to go on that. My wife is a registered nurse, so she was going to go and do the medical part as well. So as we started having our meetings and getting everything together, I realized that I'm a physical therapist, but it was unclear whether I was going to be the medical part or the construction part. And I think it was unclear to everybody else what I was going to be doing.
Yeah.
So we head down there for 9 days. We get there and we start to talk about who was going to do what. Well, people didn't really know where to put me. So, and I was becoming a little, I guess I didn't feel as valued because I was kind of this outcast person. So they said, oh, well, we'll start you over the construction area, and if somebody needs some therapy, then, you can teach them some exercises or do some things, we'll bring you over. So I started over in the construction area, working over there, and then occasionally I would come over with some people that would have neck pain or back pain or had injured their knee or ankle or something and work with them. But it was like I was the only person that kind of didn't really fit. And, you know, as a PT, I'm used to having all this, you know, millions of dollars of equipment almost. I mean, we have all this equipment at our disposal, and I was just there in an empty church trying to work with people.
Yeah.
So I was not, I mean, I was enjoying the experience, but I was kind of a little discouraged. I felt like I wasn't really contributing to the experience and helping the way that other people were. And that's, you know, I really wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Well, we were there in our next to our last day, and there were people that were coming from hours away into this clinic. And I mean, we saw a gentleman that was 90 years old that had never seen a physician before. But because there was, you know, healthcare experts from the United States there, people were coming from everywhere to see us. And it was just, you know, we got there first thing in the morning and we blasted through till we were like walking zombies at the end of the day working. Well, the next to the last day, we kind of had a lull and got caught up, and the construction was at a lull, and nobody was there for me to work with as a PT. And my wife was like an intake person. Like, people would come in and she would kind of take down their information and send them where they needed to go. And there was no more new people coming in that afternoon. And so we thought, we need to just get out of here for a second, catch our breath, walk down to the store and get something to drink. As we were walking down the store, we noticed we'd heard all week about the beautiful plaza in this town that we were in. And we thought, well, let's get a drink and go sit in the plaza. And a plaza in South Central America, it's like a courthouse, a square area, but without the government building. It's just a beautiful area that's kind of the epicenter of the city or the town. And we were sitting there and drinking, enjoying our beverages. And, you know, I'm in a strange country with my wife, so I'm kind of being alert and aware and looking around. And I noticed there was a family that was kind of moving towards us, and they were carrying a little girl. So I just kind of kept my eye on them. I didn't want to stare. And they just kept coming and getting closer and closer. And I could see when they got close enough that their intent was to come communicate with us. But the problem is, I don't speak any Spanish. My wife doesn't speak any Spanish. But through their passion and us trying to understand what they were saying, they wanted us to see their daughter.
Okay.
So I kind of looked at their daughter, and she had some braces on her feet, on her ankles, and, you know, and they'd had these appointments set for long in advance. But I thought, you know, we're going to get this girl in. She obviously needs to see a physician, and we just happened to have a neurologist with us. And so we get her back and we get her in to see the neurologist, and I go in with the girl to try to tell, and the family to try to tell the story of why they were there. And it turns out she has a disease called Guillain-Barré, and it's actually a virus that attacks the nerves, and it kind of attacks the nerves and renders the nerves ineffective for a period of time, usually a period of months, and then the nerves grow back and everything's okay. Well, she was around 18 months old, and she'd had this since she was about 1 year old. So she never had really had the capability to use her legs.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the doctor determined that, and we were talking, and I said, you know, they've been carrying her hips are real tight. We need to stretch those out. And he said, yeah, why don't you work with them and show them some of those things? So we get kind of back over in my area of the church after the physician's seen her, and I start showing the parents some stretches, and I realize this girl has never walked. You know, she's almost 2 now, and she's never walked and never used her legs, and walking is a huge part of your development as a young child. And so I'm thinking, what am I going to do? You know, how am I going to teach them to walk? Because they've carried her everywhere. And if she has to depend on them to carry her, she's not going to walk nearly as much as, or help her walk by holding her arms. She's not going to get to walk nearly enough to help her develop the way she needs to.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's not a lot of material in Honduras, not a lot of resources. And I remember in the back of the area, they had taken some old school chairs, and they just set them outside because they were kind of broken and didn't work anymore. But they don't throw anything away because, like I said, there's no resources. And so my mind gets to turning, and I think we've got to make this little girl a walker where she can walk on her own. And so the parents had come from hours away, and I said, you know, it's going to take us all, this was the afternoon, it's going to take us this evening to make this walker, but it's really important to get your daughter to walk on her own, and is there any way that you could come back tomorrow? And so they agreed to bring her back at like 10 in the morning the next day. And so they leave, and we're there working. I measured her, and we're working diligently on putting the walker together, taking the chair apart, putting everything back. And I realized it's going to be too heavy, and so I run down to the hardware store and get some little wheels to put on the front where she can push it. And so we get that done, and then we get back to our room that night, and I'm thinking, they might not come back. She might not come back. You know, what if she doesn't come back? This is I'm hearing a little echo. I don't know what that is. But anyway, she so I'm real stressed about it. I'm like, it's really important for her to come back. We don't know if she's going to come back. So we get the next day, and she has, I'm going to turn my volume down a little bit. I don't know if that's what's going on, but and so the whole morning, like, I'm thinking, is she going to show up? Is she going to come? We've got this walker ready for her. I've tested it out. I've made sure it's sturdy, you know. And so around 10 o'clock when they're supposed to be there, I've been looking at the door all morning. They come walking in. I'm excited that they're there, and I'm going to get to show her how to use this walker. And then it hits me like a ton of bricks. I've got to show her how to use a walker in basically 15 minutes, where it takes me weeks to show some people how to use a walker. And this girl's never even walked, let alone try to use an assistive device.
Yeah.
So then I'm panicked. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I don't want to get her walking and her fall and bust her head or bust her lip, or, so all these emotions are going through my mind. And so I get her on the walker, and we start walking a little bit, and I'm holding her real close because I don't want her to fall. I don't want this to be a bad experience for her. I don't want it to start off bad, because she'll never want to do it.
Right, of course.
Around the room, and she's doing pretty well pushing it, and she's looking up at me, and then she's walking, and then she kind of looks up to me, and I'm thinking, this girl is like, I'm holding this girl back. She wants to let go and take off. And so I reluctantly kind of let my hands off of her and let her walk a little bit. And I mean, she immediately took to the walker, pushed it by herself, and I'm thinking, oh, this is incredible. I can't believe she's doing that. And I look up to her, at her parents, to see what their reaction was. And they had tears streaming down their face. And it's getting me a little bit right now, but
yeah,
it hit me that this is the first time this girl has ever walked. And here she is doing it by herself after me helping with her, helping her just for a few minutes. And then I look up, and like everybody is watching, like everybody has stopped what they're doing, and they're coming over to watch this little girl walk.
I have chills.
And I have a picture. I don't know how well you can see it, but I want to show you the picture. This is a picture of her.
Hold it up a little bit. There you go.
You can see her walking.
Yeah.
Looking up at me there.
Oh, she is precious.
And so not only does she walk, we had a little area set up for when the adults would come in that had children with them, because there's no daycare. Right. We had a whole area set up where they could color and play with toys and interact. She walks over to the area that the children are playing at by herself, moves from her walker to the chair by herself, and sits down and starts to color. And here's a picture. This is a picture of her walking by herself to the area and sitting down by herself.
Wow.
And so that was just an amazing experience for me, that really opened my eyes to the fact that we all have skills and opportunities to have an amazing, a huge impact on other people. We don't have to have all of this stuff to have a huge impact on other individuals. And so that's kind of where, you asked me about teaching people to inspire and be inspirational. The things that I think we're all leaders. First off, we all have the opportunity to be leaders, whether it's in title or not in title.
Yeah.
We all have the opportunity to be leaders, and we can all be inspirational individuals. And the things that I teach leaders how to inspire, it's the same tools that you can use no matter what you're doing to impact the people around you. And you don't have to have a lot of tools and a lot of skill. People get so wrapped up in the fact that, well, what do I have to give? What do I have to offer?
Absolutely.
And you have everything in the world to offer. You just have to believe in yourself.
Yeah. So let's hold on. I'm having feedback. See, is that better? It's a little better. So a couple of things that you said that I would love to go a little bit deeper in. So one is like, how do we know what that is inside of us that we could inspire or that we could share, right? So how can that be illuminated inside of us? And also, like, it's easy to do that when we're in our flow, but what if we're in our funk?
Right.
So those are the two things I would love for you to touch on or to speak up from your experience.
Sure. Well, I think that, one way to really figure out what you have inside of you is you can sit down and write a list of things that you feel like are your strengths.
Yeah.
And then you can then the next step is go to other people and say, what do you feel I'm really good at? What skills do you feel that I possess where I could help other people? And so that's the next step. First is writing your list. Then the next step is asking some confidants, some friends, some people that are close to you the same question. And then the third step is to list out all the things that people come to ask you about.
Yeah.
Because people will need your help, and they'll seek you out for what they think you have a skill and a strength in. And so then you list all three of those out. All those things out. So you have your three lists, and you look at what is the common thing on those three lists. And whatever that common thing is, you certainly have that inside of you to help other people. And it doesn't have to be something, you don't have to be a physical therapist. You don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to be anything special. Whatever you have inside of you, whatever skill and ability you have to share with others that people come to you and seek your help for, you need to take that and you need to believe in it, believe in yourself, and then share that with the world. Because obviously you have that in you if people are coming to you.
Yeah. And I think that's, a huge point, the title, living illuminated and rocking life. Like your gift doesn't have to be your career per se,
Exactly.
but if we're not tapping into that and not allowing that to shine or, allowing us to use whatever that is, then our energy literally becomes depressed.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's if you think about your gifts that you're given, like if you don't use those gifts, then your ability to exercise that gift and use it decreases. Whether that's your self-limiting belief that it's not a gift or the fact that you feel like it's a gift, but you just don't use it. It's just like exercising. Like if I don't exercise my bicep muscle will get weak and small.
Right.
And it's the same way with our gifts. If we don't use our gifts, it's not going to grow and flourish.
Now, do you recommend like having a routine or something on a daily basis to tap into the gifts? Like, how do we, stay inspired or, keep reminding ourselves that, we do have this and we do need to use it on a regular basis?
I think something that I've always tried to have a routine or ritual, but I've struggled at times to try to be consistent with it.
Yeah.
And to always do it no matter what's going on. And a wonderful tool I discovered about 3 months ago, and it's a book, it's called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod.
Okay.
And in his book, he gives you 5 steps that you need to do in the morning to have a miracle morning.
Great.
And it's 5 things that we've all heard that we need to do. You need to read, you need to meditate, you need to have affirmations, you need to exercise. So there's all these things that we know that we need to do. It's kind of all wrapped in one, because when he was working on developing this, he said, okay, he was very depressed, in a very bad place. He said, I've got to get myself out of this. I know I need to do these 5 things. I know I need to do this, but I just don't have to, when am I going to do it?
Right.
So he started doing a little research, and he was looking in his calendar when he could fit all that stuff in, and he realized the morning's the only time I can do it. And so he did research and realized that whatever you set, how you start your day, is the most powerful time to set your intention for the day. And it's the most receptive time that our mind and body will receive the message that that we're trying to give it. For example, it's the old saying, so-and-so woke up on the wrong side of the bed. If you wake up and the first thing that happens is 3 bad things, you stub your toe, you spill water all over yourself, you step in your shower and it's cold and you think it's hot. If that's how your day starts, then it's going to be a pretty bad day.
Absolutely.
If we start our day focused, if we start our day in a positive frame of mind, if we start our day with intentions and affirmations, then our day is going to go so much better. So I've always worked on that. I've always journaled. I've always done all those things, but I've never really put it all together in such a powerful way first thing in the morning.
So thank you for sharing that. I put it in the chat room so people who are watching this on replay or who come on now could see it. Now, and I'm going to get that because I love that concept. Now, I know about Tony Robbins, the hour of power, doing the gratitude and the movement. How do these play into each other? Are they basically the same thing? Is it just a little bit different?
They're very similar. They kind of incorporate all of the same things. His is just a little bit different, but Tony, I've read recently some interviews about him, about how he starts his day, and it's almost identical to what this resource shares, what Hal shares in this resource about what you need to do. But yeah, it's almost the same thing.
Yeah, that morning time. I know for me, when I I've been nomadic since March, so it's sometimes a little bit more challenging to have a routine because the places that I stay aren't necessarily the same. But if I do my morning routine, if I do that, even if it's just 15 minutes of movement and mantras or gratitude or whatever, instantly my day feels better. What about if you're in a funk and you just, how do you get re-inspired? If you got some bad news or, whatever our brain wants to put a meaning on any situation that happened and it brings your energy down. What do you suggest to people then?
I think sometimes, we're all going to have things that happen in our life, and sometimes we will get bad news. Sometimes, things don't turn out the way that we want it. I think one thing that we avoid sometimes, and I think it's a mistake, is just living through that and experiencing it. Sometimes we get this bad information and we think, oh, I'm not going to let that impact me. It's not going to, I got to stay up. I have to stay positive. I can't think about this.
Yeah.
But we never really deal with it and go into it and feel it and then move on from it. And so if we don't do that, we're never going to move on. So I think one thing is you have to sometimes just admit, I need to live through this. I need to experience this. Not that I'm going to let it define me, but I need to deal with it, and then I can move on. And so sometimes I think that holds people back. It's certainly held me back in the past. I think another thing, a very powerful tool, is gratitude.
Yes.
I think that when we get so focused on all the things that are wrong, all the bad things that are happening, and you have to be very careful about what you put in your mind. All of the media that's available to us, there's so much. You know, their job is to get viewers and to sell advertising. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, the way we're wired, we just love to hear bad information. You know, you turn on the news and see what's on the news. Look at the cover of a People magazine and see what's on the cover of a People magazine. And so you have to really be careful about what you put in your mind and avoid that, because when you start to get all wrapped up into this, you think about all the bad things, and you never really can move to, okay, what is amazing in my life? What is wonderful? You know, what amazing friends do I have? What amazing resources? What amazing talents do I have? What people do I have around me that love me and can pour into me and invest into me? And so you have to sit down, and like I'll sit down, and I do it every day. I'll go through all the things I'm thankful for. And I think that gratitude is a very powerful tool. Another great tool is affirmations.
Yeah.
You know, you have your affirmations written out about in a very positive manner about yourself, and just reading, I think Tony Robbins teaches to read that affirmation 3 times in a row to really set it into your mind. And that's part of the Miracle Morning, is to do that. And I do it every day, and it makes a big difference. So those 2 things, I think, for me, are very powerful. And the third and last one I'll share is music.
Yes.
I think music has a lot of power to it. It gets our bodies moving, and sometimes to change our mentality, we have to change our physiology. It's like Tony Robbins says, you have to get up and you have to move around. And I think music really can help inspire you and motivate you as well, and get you out of that funk.
It's one of the things that I found that for me, and when I work with clients, I have them do, is to go skip around the block.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's something about skipping, like it's impossible not to smile when you skip.
Yeah.
And then especially as an adult, other people are like watching you, and it's like, have them join you. Like it's a complete paradigm shift for everybody.
Absolutely. It reminds you of, fun times as a child.
Absolutely. You said something else. Oh, the gratitude, something that I try to do. I'm not always successful, but is because I like to do just like 3 things in the morning and 3 things at night, like instantly start my day and end my day. But I try to find something different every single day. So like, if I'm thankful for family, that's a general thing. So what exactly am I thankful for today about my family, or a particular person about my family?
Absolutely. Very specific.
Yeah. So do you have any tools that you recommend? I know you said something about journaling.
Yeah, I think that there's some tools I really like. The first is just to have a notebook or a journal that you can journal your thoughts into and your gratitude into, because it's also good to reflect back. Looking back, and you can kind of say, oh, I forgot about this. So I was experiencing this. So I was really struggling with this. Now I'm not struggling with that. I've been, delivered from this issue. So I think having a journal where there's something magical too about putting pen to paper. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's something magical about writing things down. You can think about things, but it's not the same as writing them down and putting them on paper. So I think that is an excellent tool to start your morning with, just, journaling and sharing your gratitude. Another great app or tool that I found that has really helped me, I am very ADD, all over the place. So I've always, even as a physical therapist in the healthcare profession, I've learned about the benefits of meditation and how powerful meditation is. And I tried it, and I was pretty good at it for the first 5 seconds. And after that, my mind just, went everywhere. So the thought of meditating, that was one of the things in the Miracle Morning is to meditate. And so the thought of that, I was like, I can't do that. There's just no way. I know it's great, and it probably works for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for me.
Uh-huh.
So I heard about an app called Headspace, and it's just HEADSPACE.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat. Okay.
And it is a guided meditation. And you can choose, if you want to do a 10-minute, a 15-minute, a 20-minute, whatever you want to do. But it's a guide that guides you through how to meditate. And I sit down now and I meditate for 15 minutes every morning through this guided meditation. And of course, at the beginning, you're more guided, and the further, you go, the less guided you are.
Yeah.
And so it's just been an amazing tool for me to actually be able to meditate. If I didn't have that tool, I don't think I'd be able to meditate. So that is a great tool. And then another tool that I really like is the Audible app.
Oh, yeah.
Which is basically Amazon.com, their audiobooks. Because, you can listen to Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, a lot of inspirational people. You can just put that app on your iPhone or your Android and put your headphones in and just, you can listen to it as you're traveling in your vehicle, or you're traveling by plane, or just sitting down in your house or going for a walk. You can listen to some of these very inspirational leaders share inspiring messages. So those are probably the top apps. There's a lot more, but those are the top apps that tools I would definitely recommend right now.
Awesome. So just to, Journal, Headspace, Audible. Was there another one that I'm forgetting?
Well, we talked about the Miracle Morning. I think is a great book, a great resource. And it just it takes you step by step in how you need to start your day, which is the most powerful part of your day.
Totally. So what inspires you, Mr. The Nate Miller?
I think that, probably my biggest inspiration is my wife. She is such an amazing individual. She has such a kind heart, and she is so loving and caring, and she's so patient with me when I'm not being the best individual I can be. And so she's also, she's the CEO of a startup healthcare company. And so she has a lot of her people that she's responsible for. And just to see how she lifts them up and really, pours into them and invests into them. And so she really inspires me. My children inspire me very much so. Seeing them grow and develop and becoming individuals that are focused on caring for other individuals. Great story real quick that my daughter, for her 9th, she's just turned 12, but I believe it was her 9th birthday. On her own, she just decided, I'm going to I have all the toys I need. I'm just going to do a fundraiser for the Humane Society. So for her party, she sent, and we did not push her to do this. It wasn't even our idea. She just came up with it completely on her own. She decided that instead of her getting presents, she wanted to have items. So she contacted the Humane Society and got a list of items that they needed.
Wow.
And so she sent that with her invitation and said, either bring these items or we'll have a bucket for donations. And she was able to, she raised just over $900 that she donated to the local Humane Society. So, and all of my children have done incredible things like that. They've, poured into and invested in other individuals. So that's very inspirational to me. And then there's lots of information that you can access. Tony Robbins is very inspiring to see how he can work with people and immediately impact them. Zig Ziglar is a great inspiration to me. Jim Rohn, Simon Sinek, I really like his stuff. He's a guy that's kind of younger and doing some pretty amazing things. So I would say those are all the things that inspire me. And the last one, just nature. Nature is very inspirational. You know, seeing a majestic mountain or watching the leaves fall from the tree in the background, just watching, you know, you here on this blab, but looking out my office and seeing, I'm fortunate I live out in the country, and I can look out my office and see deer grazing in my yard. And that's very inspirational too, because it just helps you focus on the fact that there's a lot more out there than us.
Yes, you nailed it. That was my thought too. When we're in nature, it's like it helps us become less, narcissistic, and
Absolutely.
and it helps put things in perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel that way when I'm looking at because I lived in California for since 2004, and all my stuff is still in LA. And so, but I grew up in the Midwest. But when I see the ocean, it's just poof, blows me away.
Powerful. Absolutely.
Totally.
Very inspiring.
So, what else would you like? Someone who's watching this now or on the replay, and they're sort of, I don't know, struggling or looking for inspiration. What sort of thing would you? I mean, I know we just went over a few things, but like just off the cuff, what do you think would be really helpful for them to hear right now?
Well, I think that, one thing that, because I told my story at the beginning, I never really got into my three steps to be inspirational, to live inspired.
Yeah.
So let me run through those. The first one is to mentor and invest in other people.
Awesome.
And we all have an opportunity. There's people all around us that we can mentor and invest in. And I was so fortunate as a young leader that my boss at the time, this was very important to her. And so she would pour into me and invest into me as, not just a leader, but as an individual. And so I thought, well, this is just what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to invest in other people and pour into them. So I, in turn, found people that I could invest in and pour into. And one thing that did, there's two things that it did. When I was being invested in by someone, it helped me realize, because at the time I didn't really believe in my ability.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, here's someone that's taken their time to invest in and pour into me. I'm not paying them to do it. They're just doing it because they want to. So they see something in me, they believe in me, and it helped me believe in myself. Then you take that a step further, and it goes back to what you were talking about things being bigger than us and us being less narcissistic, is when you pour in and invest into someone else, it inspires you. It helps you grow. It helps you be motivated and inspired. So that is the first thing. And somebody might be listening to this or watching the replay and think, well, nobody wants to hear what I have to say.
Yeah.
I would challenge you that is not the case. There's something that you can help somebody else with. You can go to, there's so many organizations. You can go to the Boys and Girls Club. You can go to the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts. You can go to, the food bank. The local United Way is a great source. There's pregnancy resource centers. I mean, the list just goes on and on. And you don't have to be someone that is brilliant and has all this information. It can be as simple as helping someone have basic life skills. Everybody has the opportunity to do that. So that is my first step, to live inspired and inspired. The second one is to encourage and edify other people. Unfortunately, about a month ago, I lost my grandmother. And as I was reflecting back upon her life, I realized that she was an amazing individual when it came to lifting other people up. Like, she always had encouraging words. She was always telling me and everybody else the things she noticed and told us about all the things that we were good at. And that is we all have that ability. It doesn't come naturally, I would say, and I don't really understand why, because it's so easy to do. And I think some of it has to do with the fact that, we're kind of focused on what's wrong and what's bad. And a prime example of that is, if my daughter brought home her report card, or one of my sons, and they had all A's except for one class, they had an F, the first thing I'm going to say, my natural inclination is, why do you have this F?
Yeah.
But really, we should be doing, and psychologists tell us this, that we should be doing the opposite. We should focus on the A's and not even really talk about the F. So there's just something inherent in us that we want to go to what's wrong to fix. But everybody has the opportunity to lift people up and to edify or encourage. And we should do that constantly. So that's the second thing. And like I said, we all have that ability. You don't have to have any kind of skill. If you see somebody doing something good, just comment and let them know that.
Yeah.
The third thing is to genuinely connect and be present with people. Especially in this day and age of social media and iPhones. You see memes all the time about people together and they're out in a social setting, but they're all looking down at their phones. And that is easy to do. I'm guilty of that myself. But I think when we're with people, we've got to be engaged and be present and be focused and be, in there with them in the moment. A funny story real quick. When I was a kid, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I was probably about 8 years old. This was probably 78, 79. And my dad was a pharmacist and he owned his own pharmacy, and my mother was there working, and I would go with him sometimes because we couldn't find a babysitter or I would just go up there and kind of hang out. And they were real busy. And right down from their pharmacy was a record store. And they also had, press on, iron on T-shirts. And so you could go in, you could pick out your design, and you could pick out whichever shirt. If you're old enough to remember, you could pick out your shirt, and then they would press the design on it. And so I went down there and I saw an amazing T-shirt design that I wanted. It was of a Corvette, and I loved Corvettes at the time. And so I told them, I said, yeah, my parents said I could have a T-shirt, so that's the one I want. And they said, are you sure your parents said that it was okay to get that? And I said, oh, yeah, they said I can have a T-shirt. And they said, well, you need to go ask your parents about this and tell them what's on the shirt. And so I said, okay. So I walked back to the pharmacy, and my parents were like really busy. And so I was like trying to tell them what the shirt said and what it looked like. And they're like, finally, I think my mom said, I told you to get a shirt. I don't care what it says. Just go get your shirt. And so, I go back. I'm happy now. I've got my permission. So I tell them, I said, yeah, I asked them. And the people that own the store were our next door neighbors. But I said, they knew my parents. I said, I asked them, and they said that it was fine. And they're like, well, okay. And so they pressed the shirt. I put the shirt on over the shirt I was wearing. I'm so proud of it. And I walk into my pharmacy, and my parents, one of my mom kind of looked over and did this. She just, kind of did that. And she said, what are you wearing? I said, well, this is the shirt I asked you about. And she said, you go take that shirt off right now. Well, the shirt had a picture of a Corvette, but Corvettes are made out of fiberglass. They were like the first car to really be all fiberglass. So the saying at the bottom said, wrap your ass in fiberglass. And so needless to say, I did not ever get to wear that shirt again. But that was just a good, I remember as a kid thinking I can take advantage of people when they're not paying attention and not being present. But so many times, to unpack it, so many times we are so focused on ourselves and so focused on what's going on, and we're so afraid we're going to miss something on social media or Facebook or Twitter that we're not really present in the moment with the individuals that we're with, and we really miss a chance to make a genuine connection with those people. So those are the 3 steps, mentor and invest in others, encourage and edify other people, and then just be there, be present, and be engaged with individuals. And if you do those 3 things, it helps you be inspired, and it helps you to feel lifted up and connected as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing those 3 insights. They remind me, my father was a manic depressive, and he ended up committing suicide when I was 18. And so I've done a lot of study about depression, and it runs in my family. And I remember hearing from Donnie Epstein, which is the guy who basically created he did create network chiropractic. And he would say, if you're depressed, go focus on someone else.
Absolutely.
And now, of course, there's extremes, right? So I don't want to, and from experience, when we focus on like you said, it makes us feel better. Mm-hmm. And the mentor and investing in other people, you mentioned a lot of organizations that are brilliant. And also, think of your neighbor. Maybe you have an elderly neighbor that needs their leaves done or their groceries carried in.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's some, I remember when I was in college, when I was in physical therapy school, one of my classmates, who was like my best friend in physical therapy school, he would come in and he would tell me about all these amazing stories of, this family of Samoans that broke down on the side of the road, and I stopped and helped them, and they gave me this cool necklace that had this, handmade design on it. And he always had all these stories. I'm thinking, well, how does he come up with all these opportunities to help people? I never see people, that I could help. And then I realized he was looking for those opportunities, and I wasn't. As soon as I started paying attention to opportunities to help other people, opportunity after opportunity after opportunity began showing up. It's just the opportunities are there. It's just whether we recognize them as opportunities and then take it a step further and then, fulfilling what we need to do to helping those individuals.
Absolutely. And that, might even be, if we're going to add another step 4, like not just looking at opportunities to help other people, but like, what opportunity do I have here in my life to be happy, to be illuminated, to like, how can I rock my life right now?
Absolutely.
Everything that I have.
Absolutely.
Awesome, Nate. What do you have coming up? Like, are you doing any speaking engagements? Are you writing another book? Like, what's on the Nate schedule?
I have several speaking engagements coming up. I have several associations that I'm going to speak to teach them how to be inspirational leaders. So lots of different places. I'll be in Missouri. I'll be in Tennessee, Arkansas, just kind of areas local. That's what I have coming up immediately. I'm also working on a book, and I think is extremely important. It's called The Fit Professional.
Awesome.
That's like my working title right now, but it's about how to be, let me just back up a little bit. Being a professional myself, being a hospital CEO, being a physical therapist, I obviously know the importance of living a healthy lifestyle, being fit, but it can be so difficult as a professional.
Yeah.
And I think that there's not a focus out there that I've seen. Maybe there is somebody, but there's not a focus on professionals. Yeah. A lot of people that teach fitness and health and wellness are people that go to a gym and spend all day in a gym teaching other people how to be fit. And they really miss the boat on, and I'm not being critical of those people, but I'm just saying, they don't understand some of the challenges you face in the professional world. For example, like right now, we're about to go into the holiday season. There's going to be all kinds of potlucks at work. There's going to be all kinds of Christmas parties, Thanksgiving parties. People just love to eat during the holidays. And so how do you deal with that when one of your big things at work is a function where you go out to eat with all your coworkers?
Yeah.
How do you handle that? Or, people are bringing in birthday cakes for birthdays. And how do you fit in time to work out, to invest in not only your physical health, but your mental well-being as well, and deal with all the pressures that it takes to be in a professional environment? So that's what I'm focused on now, and I'm working on. And I think, some of those reasons are why we're seeing such an epidemic of obesity and such an epidemic of cardiovascular disease, is because people really don't have the strategies and tools and know how to deal with fitting, they know that it's good and they need to do it, but struggling with how to fit it into their professional and daily life. So that's what I'm focused on.
That's awesome. Something that you don't know about me is when I'm also a massage therapist, and I did a lot of corporate wellness.
Wow,
And,
I didn't know that.
yeah, and when I was in LA, I tried to get a corporate wellness company together where we brought holistic health into businesses, and they were really excited. I couldn't find people to help me with that, and I definitely need people to help me, or I definitely wane. So I would go do massage in the businesses, and it was just, it's heartbreaking because it's the disease of corporate America that doesn't allow people to have a vibrant life. Like in Germany, Volkswagen gave everybody a cell phone and they turn it off at 6 because they want them to spend time with their family and have a good life. Here,
that's awesome.
Here it's like if I'm calling and, not me, but if your boss is calling and you don't pick it up, you get reprimanded. And,
absolutely.
One of my missions is to help change corporate America. That's sort of something that's happening behind the scenes. So maybe we should, we could totally pair up and figure out how to do that.
Absolutely, because that's one thing when I coach or teach professional, executives, I tell them, okay, shut it off at night. Don't email them. Don't call them, because they'll say, well, I'm going to send them an email while I'm thinking about it. Well, the problem is they might not expect you to, the person sending it might not expect a response until the next day. Well, the person getting the email is like, well, my boss is emailing me at 8:00 at night. Should I wait? I better not. I better, so then not only are they thinking about what they need to tell the information that's requested, they got this internal struggle of, do I need to tell them now, or is he expecting it in the morning? Is she expecting in the morning? And so they go by default. They think, well, I'm not going to take a chance. I'm going to go ahead and send it now.
That's right.
So I teach them to, there's even ways you can set your email to like, okay, if you, set it to go out at 8 in the morning, not right now.
That's right.
Especially over the weekend. And so I really work with executives about that, because people have to have work time and they have to have family and playtime.
Yeah, boundaries, and they're in every way, and then especially like what you were just saying, which is what I hear is a communication flaw. Letting people know what is expected and things like that is also huge, because all of that, since we're talking about stress and living illuminated and rocking life, if we have any sort of stress, our cortisol levels go up, we get and then we can't be present, then we can't, stress is the precursor to every modern day disease.
Absolutely.
Which is inflammation creates all of that. So I love, your leadership that ties into, what I would call holistic wellness, which ultimately just helps, without looking at it holistically, it's impossible in my humble opinion, it's impossible to have an illuminated life and having a great life.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right.
Now, do you have a website handy that we could, or can you type in your website in the in the chat where people could find you, and perhaps a Facebook? What name you go by on Facebook and Twitter?
Instagram. Let me put that in.
Okay, great. Good job on remembering all of those.
Yeah, I hope these are right. I hope there's not somebody else that's why all these people are following me. I don't know. Oh. Let's see. And then Facebook, it's just Nate Miller.
Awesome.
I think that's the 400 ways to connect to me right there.
Absolutely. We are so connected, right? It's like we're so connected, but yet disconnected in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's amazing, and blessing and a curse. Because hey, if we didn't have all this capability, we wouldn't be sitting here chatting about how to be inspired and illuminated.
Absolutely. Well, I think you're awesome. I love your energy when you do your scopes, Periscope. For people who don't know the lingo, I love them. And I love seeing you inspire people. Like, it just comes from within you. Like, you just have this light and you're just like sharing it. And so I feel very honored that you took time out of your schedule to hop on Blab with me and for us to, it ended up just being us, which is totally fine because I get to have you all to myself. So,
hey, no problem. I feel very honored myself to have been selected to be on your conversations with Carla. I feel very fortunate.
Thank you.
Very beneficial, very fun too.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So, people follow Nate for some inspiration, and definitely get on his list. I'm sure he has a list somewhere, because if you have any programs coming up that you're going to create, or new books, get them, because you rock.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it, Carla. It's
All right,
been a blast.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and just stop the recording. So thank you, everyone.